Robert King, welcome to the Turnbuckle Sessions. How are you doing today?
Doing good. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
It's an honor to have you, man. So we're going to do a little deep dive. Let's start off back to when you were a kid. What first made you, fall in love with wrestling? What is some of your earliest wrestling memories?
So, obviously, a lot of people know that I have an identical twin brother. His name is Justin King. We were fortunate enough that our mom was a huge wrestling fan, and she used to go to shows with my granny. Every time they came to the Civic Center, my mom would go with my granny, and so it just like a family thing. Like she got us started, and she would take us to shows. And I remember the very first show I went to was at the Peoria Civic Center, Peoria, Illinois, because that's where we grew up. And the main event at the Civic Center was Andre the Giant and Haku versus Demolition for the tag team titles.
Oh, wow, the
So
colossal connection.
yeah, what a great way for us to get into wrestling and to learn about the business. And then at that same show, we actually met Hacksaw Jim Duggan. So
Oh, wow.
when you meet a wrestler, especially at that age, and we were really young. I think we were like 3 or 4. Um,
Wow.
at that age, you're meeting a superhero. It was just great, and so we would watch wrestling every Monday. We would watch wrestling, and Saturday night. That was life for us, and so um, I've been a fan my whole entire life, and then I just happened to get lucky to get into the business. But watching it was, we grew up on tag team wrestling, and man, I got tons of stories to go. I mean,
All right, well, let's start. So you, as you mentioned, your twin brother. So, did you both decide you wanted to be a referee at the same time? Because it's pretty impressive that you lived this dream with your brother. Tell us about that.
so we knew right away and early on, like we knew we wanted to be in wrestling, but we didn't know quite for sure what we wanted to do. Everybody wants to wrestle, but we never really had that vision. We always had the vision of the referees because if you think about it, and as selfish as it sounds, the referees are out for everything. So you're out multiple times a night. You're getting a chance to do more at the show, except for that 5 to 10 minute match. And we were always really small, and so we knew we would never be super big. So the wrestling thing just wasn't really in our minds. So we decided early on. I think we were about 12 or so when we decided, okay, we're gonna probably try to be referees.
Wow. So, when did you start training, and where do you go for training to be a ref?
So it's funny you asked that. When we got started, there really wasn't like schools dedicated to referees. There was always wrestling schools that referees went to, and you learned how to, bump, and you learned how to use the ring, and but there was never anybody that really took us aside and said, okay, this is how you ref. So what we did in turn was we would go to as many, WWE events that we could, WWF at the time. We would go to those events and we would try to talk to the referees. Forget the wrestlers. We would try to talk to the referees. So, and we got lucky in enough that we met Chad Patton and Jack Doan, who happened to live in the area that we lived in. So
Oh, wow.
they kind of took us under their wings a little bit, and we would try to mirror what they did on TV in our living room, in our dining room. So we would set up our dining room kind of like a wrestling ring, and every move they did, we tried to emulate and we tried to recreate, and that's kind of what helped us learn how to ref. And then we'll fast forward a little bit. We happened to meet these guys in Danville, Illinois, who ran a tiny independent promotion. Well, it really wasn't tiny at the time. They were bringing in really big names, and it was New Breed Wrestling Alliance out of Danville, Illinois. And the guy who ran it, his name was Don Cato Morales was his work name. And so he was at the mall one day taking pictures with these belts. Well, they were, replica WWE belts, but they had the NBWA name on them. And we actually met up with these guys and told them how much we loved wrestling and told them we wanted to ref. And they gave us our first shot, pretty much. So started refing then, and the rest is just basically, taking tips and tricks from the referees that we watched on TV and honing our craft a little bit.
Wow. So really, it's kind of self training and That's super impressive. So what are some of your early jobs? Where were you? Was it Indies or?
So all indies to start off, and we worked for about 2 years in Illinois, and we moved around a little bit to Iowa and Indiana, but we didn't really move out of Illinois that much. And then it was 2 years into the business, and Justin got picked up with the WWE.
Wow.
So once Justin got picked up with the WWE, it was kind of like, wow, we've done it. Okay, he's made it, and I can learn vicariously through him how to ref, and that's kind of how it happened. Now, saying I'm not tooting my brother's horn, but my brother was a decent referee in the WWE. He was really good at what he did in the WWE, and so I would mirror myself after Chad Patton and after Justin King and John Cone as well. I think John Cone's one of the most best. He's the best overall referee on the roster besides Chad Patton. So that's who
Wow.
I mirrored myself after.
Yeah, John Cohn has been there a while. So I guess there's no experience like actually stepping in a ring to have to do, when you get to do it.
Sure.
So in the first couple of years, is it nerves? Do you just, what is it like being in a ring, as a rookie ref
So
and
I think as a rookie ref, what it is, the hardest part is to get to know the business itself. How to conduct yourself in the locker room, how to, talk to the boys and girls that are in the back, because they expect a certain thing and they expect you to do a certain thing. And when you're new, you just don't know how to do that. I think referee is a misconception to most people. Like people think, okay, I can just throw on these stripes and get in the ring and count 1, 2, 3, but it's so much more than that. And it took me a very long time to really recognize that and realize that there's so much more to this particular profession. To me, I say it now, and I'll continue to say it for the rest of my career. In the 15 years I've been doing this, I've realized this is the second hardest job in pro wrestling is a referee. You got your promoter who's doing everything, and then you got your referees. Because referees have to know everything. We have to know when this person's supposed to be here or that person's supposed to be there, or how the show's running and where we are in the show. You have to know all these things in order to make the show run successfully. The promoter can only do so much, so you have to have hands on deck to help. And yeah, you got your agents and your producers, but if you got good referees that know exactly what's going on, those producers aren't stressed, which in turn makes the wrestlers not stress out, which in turn helps the promoter. And a lot of people just don't get that. They don't get that training because they just jump in there and they're working for, no offense, $20 and a hot dog, and that's what they're showing up to get their 10 minutes of fame. Well, it's to me it's much more than that. This is a lifestyle, and if you learn that lifestyle, then it can take you far.
wow, that's awesome. So so what is some of your early memories? Anything that you felt that you can point out that helped, set you on your way to being a better referee?
Sure. So the first 6 years that I refereed, I moonlighted as a wrestler. Okay, I wrestled as the unpredictable cyclone. I was under a mask. And my claim to fame was that I lost to women every night I wrestled, right? So, but it taught me how the boys and girls work in the ring and ring positioning and how not to be in the way. They always say a good rep is one that's not seen because we're not the stars of the show. I mean, yeah, we're there, and without us, the match is nothing. But we're not the stars of the show. The boys and girls that are in the ring are. So the goal is not to be seen, to stay out the way. And that wrestling taught me how to stay out the way and how to you know do it the right way. I got when I was on the indies, I can tell you there's a big vast difference between the indies and the national level. It's so different. So I worked my way up, and I was on the indies for a couple years, and I was fortunate enough to meet Billy Corgan. Okay, so Billy was running a show out of Chicago with a couple guys, the Barons, the Baron brothers, and we Resistance Pro Wrestling. And I met a lot of cool people at Resistance Pro, and that is when I think it all started to make sense to me. You know, yeah, we weren't on a national level, but we're talking about Billy Corgan. I mean, let's be honest, he's a big name. So when I started to work at that company, it was like okay, how can I elevate myself to get to the next level? So I worked my tail off at Resistance Pro Wrestling and eventually became the head referee for that particular promotion. And I learned a lot about TV and about positioning, but I didn't really learn about the national level until I got with Impact Wrestling.
Okay, so when were you with Impact?
So I started with Impact in 2016. 2016, it was the end. So Billy Corgan got picked up with the Impact Wrestling, and he became the president of the company. Well, I actually had reached out to Billy, who said that there may be an opportunity, there may not, at the time. Well, I flew myself down to Florida, and I actually met Brian and Earl Hebner, who Brian and Earl actually helped me tremendously. It was Brian and Earl, and then Stifler. Brian Stifler was working there at the time. So I showed up and I met those guys long before I even got picked up with the company. And so they took me under their wing. They showed me a little bit and talked to me a little bit, but I think at the time it was kind of like, what's his intentions? Is he trying to join the team? Is he trying to come in to take over? You know how it goes. But I was there to join the team. I wanted to join that team. To me, Earl Hebner is a legend. And Brian Hebner is, without a doubt, one of the best referees in the entire world. He knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for many, many years. And I learned so much from Brian. But yes, I went to Impact and flew myself down. And then I flew myself back down again. I believe it was it Slammiversary. It was Bound for Glory. So Slammiversary, I flew myself down and I watched that pay-per-view. Bound for Glory, I flew myself back. And I was there that week of tapings. And when I showed up, I talked to Big, who was a big-time guy in the back. I think his name was John Grubik. I can't pronounce his last name, but he was running production in the back there. And John told me, Big told me, here's your shot. When you go out to the ring, it was Explosion. And I had two of the best female wrestlers in my Explosion match, Allison Kay and Mia Yim. So two big names. And he said, here's your chance. Either you go out here and you make it or don't bother coming back. And to me, that's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
So I went to the ring. I did what I did. We had a great match because I had great people to work with. I didn't have to worry about anything. It's easy peasy when you got people who know what they're doing. And Allison and Mia are both phenomenal women that can work. You don't have to say much to them. They don't have to say much to you because they can work. And when I came to the back, they offered me to stay the rest of the week, and that's how it happened. And
wow.
I was with Impact Wrestling for almost 2 years.
Well, so I guess you had to learn quick the difference between reffing on the indies to now reffing on TV. What was some of the differences? What are the differences between the two?
So it's a vast difference. On the indies, you're working the crowd on all four sides of the ring. So you're moving around, and it doesn't matter where you're at. On TV, you're working towards the camera, okay? And you got the fans behind you. And you got, your IFB, which is an earpiece in your ear, and you're trying to keep track of time, and you're trying to keep track of, TV. And there's just so much that goes into the production of TV that you don't see on the indies. And that's where a lot of referees just don't get it. It's a huge difference. There's a big world. It's a world of difference there. So coming from the indies, you don't know. And then you're watching, there's three cameras out there, one in front of you and two on the sides, and you can't block those cameras. You can't block those cameras. You got to be in the right positioning, and you have to make sure you're not taking up that man's camera there, because that's hard to do, and it's hard to work, especially when we were in the 6-sided ring. I never worked a 6-sided ring. So it was different for me. Your psychology of ring awareness is off because it's 6 sides instead of 4. So it was different. It was a big difference, and it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, obviously you stepped up to the challenge on your first match there. You got to stay for the week. So that's you must adjust. You're good under pressure, because that's pretty impressive.
I'll take it all day long. I was actually pretty happy, pretty psyched, pretty stoked. You know, it, it should be said that um, everybody knows I'm in law enforcement. I've been a police officer for 10 years, so I moonlight doing the referee and this at the same time. But I've always loved the wrestling just a little more because that's where I came from and that's what I do. So I'm thankful that I got a job that allows me to go and do like Impact Wrestling for a week, leave for a week, and then come back to work. And so I did that for 2 years. I
Wow.
worked many pay per views. I worked the one night stands and Slammiversaries and the Bound for Glories, and I got to do that. It was absolutely fun. It was a good time. But all good things must come to an end sometimes, and that's what kind of happened with Impact Wrestling.
So I guess I'm seeing a connection with Billy Corrigan here, and that's how you move on to NWA, where you are now as the head ref.
So um, so um, I've always loved Billy and his vision and the way he looks at things. Okay, a lot of people, know Billy Corgan for his music. Yes, I know his music, but Billy. I met William Patrick Corgan. Okay, I didn't meet Billy Corgan, the superstar. So to me, he's a friend, right? But I had to earn that friendship. It wasn't just like now we're here and this guy's just giving me things to just because I'm a friend of his. No, I had to earn everything I got, and I just loved his vision. And the reason why I left Impact Wrestling is because at the time I was paying my own way to do everything. I was paying for my own flights, paying for my own hotels, paying for my own travel. And after a while, it just gets expensive to do that. And so it just didn't make sense for me to do it anymore. And so I just got, wasn't that I was tired of it. I just felt like at this point, I've been working for 2 years and, you know, I was hoping that maybe I would get a contract out the deal. And it didn't happen. Okay. So when Brian and Earl left the company, um, then Brian Stifler left the company. I just followed suit, and it was just befitting of me at the time to take off. They were going through some management changes. They went from being with Dixie Carter to Anthem, and it was a big deal at that point. And I just was kind of in the mix, but I wasn't signed to anything, so I wasn't really anything of importance, if that makes sense. And
Right.
so it was just time for me to move on. Now, fast forward to NWA. I had heard Billy Corgan purchase the NWA, and I got excited quick, man. It was awesome to me, because now finally Billy owns something that's his, and his vision can come to light. Now I know his vision because I worked with him in Resistance Pro Wrestling and then in Impact Wrestling, and so I know his vision, and I know what can help drive his business and drive his vision forward. And Brian Hebner ended up, joining the mix, which to me was awesome because we had a head referee at the NWA that could show me some things I had never been shown before, which is awesome, So yeah, we're with the NWA now, and it's me and Brian, and we met Jared Fritz at the time, so it was the three of us.
So you're now the head ref at NWA?
So they call me the lead referee, um, which so here's the deal. I work with a couple guys, and let me just say before I go into these guys that when I worked with Brian Hebner and Jared Fritz, um, I thought we had a solid group of guys. Okay, and COVID-19 happened, and people have to move on and do what's best for them and their families. So when Brian left, it was kind of like, okay, how am I going to do this? How am I going to help move forward? Because I've never been in a position of head referee on a sort of a national level. Like this is something different. But you move forward. You adapt, you learn, you move forward. And I asked Brian a lot of questions, and he's kind of helped me along the way. But yes, I'm considered the lead referee, which senior referee, lead referee. It's a position that you hold that you earn over time. And so I do ref assignments and help the producers and the agents in the back. I go to production meetings, so I know how the show runs, and I can relay that back to the referees that we're using. And right now, I got a great group of guys. I got Jared Fritz still, And then we picked up Scott Wheeler, who used to work at Impact Wrestling also. And Scott Wheeler he joined the group and he fit in like a glove. So the three of us we're so in tune with each other and so tight that it works out. It's so awesome to have a group of guys that just have the same vision and the same want for a company.
Yeah, and I love what I love about the NWA. It's like classic throwback wrestling. It's like watching wrestling, from the 70s and the 80s with the way the heels are actual true heels, and they have something special going on now, and it's good to be through the whole pandemic and seeing them come back now. But so what other wow, so the lead, like that's a awesome feeling for you to be promoted to lead ref after 15 years in the business.
Sure.
What are some of your highlights of coming up? Do you have any favorite memories?
Sure. So, and God rest his soul, Josephus Hudson, Joseph Hudson, Josephus Brody, was a good friend of mine, and we worked together all the way from Resistance Pro all the way up until he passed on. I got to work several of his matches, and one of his last matches I got to work, and I'll always treasure that, and I'll always hold that memory for forever. And I miss him dearly. He was a really good friend of mine, and so I've been fortunate that I've got to work with every single championship in that company in NWA. And Nick Aldis, he uses me. To me, that says something. He used Brian Hebner. If you ever noticed any matches from NWA back in the day, Brian Hebner did them. Nick Aldis is a damn good champion. Excuse my French. He is really good at what he does. He carries our company on his back, and he I can't say enough good things about Nick Aldis. Okay, and for him to choose me to take over when Brian left it's a monumental thing to me. Okay, because I didn't get the chance to work NWA World Heavyweight Championship match because Brian did them, and he trusted Brian, which I would trust Brian too. He's been in the business for 20 years. He knows what he's doing, 20 plus years. So now that I got to do that main title on the main stage, and just like we just worked this match, Nick Aldis and Trevor Murdoch, what a huge match. And you were just saying about classic wrestling. To me, that's what I grew up on. So to be able to ref a match with two guys that are your classic wrestling, Trevor Murdoch is your down and dirty, brawler. And then you got Nick Aldis, who is your, a submission expert, who he's an all around ring general, can do everything in the ring. And I got these two guys, and, for me to be standing in the middle of the ring with those two was absolutely awesome for me. Though I got hit in the back with a chair, which hurt really bad. It was awesome for me to do that moment. Very awesome. Also, I got to crown or raise the hand of the Rock and Roll Express on their 9th tag team title victory. That's awesome.
Wow.
How loud the crowd was, and getting to be in the ring with them. And not to mention, they worked two great guys, Royce Isaacs and Tom Latimer, the wild cards at the time. You couldn't ask for two better guys for them to work because they're all around great in the ring too. But to hear the crowd when they won those championships, I'll never get to recreate that moment. This is a team I watched growing up win those tag team titles, and then I got to raise their hands with those tag team titles.
Wow, that's a pretty special moment right there.
Yes.
So now, how do you look? Does it change your perspective watching wrestling now that you're a referee? How do you look at it differently? Do you appreciate it more?
And this is a loaded question for me. And I take nothing away from anybody. I just think there's a vast difference of referee style from, let's say, the Attitude Era or the era after the Attitude Era, the PG era, where when my brother worked in the WWE, the rules were the rules. They expected the referees to do, the 5 count in the corner, 10 count outside of the ring. Tag team moves were limited to 5 seconds. And fortunately for the NWA, that's the way we've set it up. Okay. We have rules and you're going to follow our rules because as referees, we've been given the authority to throw the match out. We don't care.
Wow.
You know, there's rules and there's a reason why there's rules. There's a reason why there's a referee in the ring. Why are we not utilizing our referees more? Nowadays, you see a lot of referees letting tag teams do big spots for 20 seconds. And you're just
Yeah.
standing around with your hands in the air, flailing around as a referee, and it makes you look kind of silly standing there doing that. So I'm fortunate in the fact that I work for a company that doesn't happen. You know, we do what's expected. You know, we're referees. You know, it's we do our job, and that's the difference now between now and then is that anymore, like I said, anybody just throws referee shirts on and they think they can just get in the ring and do it. That's I don't take anything away from anybody chasing their dreams, but you know, some people just aren't cut out to be a referee. I hate to say that, but it's true.
It is true. So if you're in a match and a person doesn't get back into the ring by the 10 count when they're outside of the ring, that's on them, not you. You're told just to count.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. That's on them. If they don't get back in the ring by the 10 count, I'm sorry, you were counted out. I don't know what to tell
Yeah.
you. You know,
Wow.
that's what we're at, you know. There's rules for a reason.
Yeah.
So that's how I ref everywhere. I don't care where I go. Like I also work for Warrior Wrestling out of Chicago. Love that company. Love that promotion. That's the only promotion I'm working with outside of the National Wrestling Alliance. But it's the same thing there. The rules are the rules to me.
And that's the way it should be. That's what makes wrestling great. And you know, it's lacking in a lot of other promotions right now. So, but
I
so
agree.
now, are you still a wrestling fan? Do you still tune in and watch a lot of wrestling?
Sadly, no. Um,
Sadly,
the business has changed so much and changed from what it used to be. And I watch NWA.
yeah,
That's primarily and mainly for homework.
yeah,
Where did I mess up here? What could I have done better here? What can I do to help the other guys out that work with me? You know, so I watch the show and I go back and I critique myself, not only myself but the other guys, so we can kind of help each other out. If we see something, we can let each other know.
yeah. That makes sense. So, what are some of the responsibilities? Casual, well, I'm more than a casual fan. I'm a diehard fan, but we don't even realize that goes into being a ref.
I was like, I mean, I'll laugh at
Yeah,
that question because there's a lot. So, like I said, we're the ones that keep everything, you know. And I'm not going to go into like a bunch of backstage specifics, but we're the
yeah,
ones that keep the show running. I mean, you should see me at an NWA event. I am legit running around like a chicken with my head cut off because I need to know where this person needs to be and that person needs to be, and I need to find this person and find that person, and then I need to know what time we're out on the card and what we're doing. And when we're doing TV tapings, obviously everybody knows we do our tapings in a row and we release our stuff. That's not a secret to anybody, but you're doing 3 or 4 days full of stuff. I need to know what's happening in those 3 or 4 days. That way, when people come to me and ask me, "Hey, Sticks," or because they call my twin and I Sticks and Bones. Bones is Sticks and Bones. So
yeah.
Bones was a nickname my brother was given by Dusty Rhodes. Okay,
Wow.
and yeah, so when he worked in FCW, and then they found out he had a twin, and I got my nickname from Stu Bennett from Wade Barrett.
Yep.
He called me Sticks, and so Sticks just stuck. So Sticks and Bones is what they call us. So they, hey Sticks, what do we need to know this? And I have to know. It's there's no hey, let me find out. I need to know these things because they ask so many questions, you know. And not only that, you need to know the vision of what your promoter wants and the vision of what your agents expect because each agent works different. So you need to get with these guys and figure out what they want for their matches and what they want to see for their matches, you know. Um, and inside the ring, what if they get lost? What if they don't? You know, it happens. We're human, you know. So I can tell them where they're at and what they need to do. If you're a good referee, you can help them out to get them moving more, a bit forward. But most of the time, you're working with professionals, you don't have to do that. But there's a lot. I do a lot. I do a lot of stuff that I probably shouldn't do, but just to help out, right? So
Right.
I'm legit. I'm legit there, first one in the building. Typically, the first one in the building. The referees are making sure the ropes are tight, the ring set up, We got a ring crew that does that, and they're damn good at what they do. Our ring crew, just the tried and true pro wrestling, academy students, ran by Crimson, Anthony Mayweather there in Tennessee. That crew is really good, but we want to make sure everything's like spot on where it needs to be. So then, like I said, they're referees. We need to know ring positioning, where we're at in the ring. That's very important. So you don't get hit, so you don't get kicked or hit with a weapon that's in the ring. So so you don't get hurt. And it's happened to me where I've been kicked because I was out of place. So there's just so many rules that you need to know outside of the ring to be a referee, and it's just tough for people to do it. And I told you that earpiece that we wear, that's huge. You need to make sure that's on and working. Because if somebody's trying to get a hold of you and they can't get a hold of you, it could be bad.
Now the earpiece, can you talk to them in the back? They can hear you as well?
Nope.
No. So it's only you. You have a one-way message.
Yeah, one-way message, but you got to know how to communicate that message without, looking like a fool, going up and you know what I mean. So you just got to know how to work. Like one of my biggest claims of fame is that I was a theater student, in high school. That's what I did. I was in theater and I loved it, and it taught me a lot about how to pantomime and how to do things and how to act, for that matter. Yes, wrestling, for some people, and I can't stand it when people say wrestling's fake because it's not fake. I wrestled for 6 years. It's not fake. It hurts. It hurts like hell. And then some of these guys that do this night out, night in and night out, I don't know how they do it. Part of the reason I don't do it anymore is because it hurts so bad. I just wasn't cut out for it. So it's not fake. It's there's a script to it. Sure, everybody knows that, but these guys are working hard on their bodies, working out, eating right, dieting right, and then they're going out there and hitting that wood for 200 days out the year. I dare people to come into this business and do what and Nick Aldis does, or do what these tag teams do. I would love to see people get into a hardcore match and see when they get hit for the first time with a kendo stick, how it feels.
Yeah, and obviously you know what it's like to get hit in the back with a chair.
Sure.
It doesn't sound pleasant. How long does it take you to recover from that?
I'm going to tell you, the last time I got hit with that chair, this is just recently here on the pay-per-view, it took me about 2 weeks.
Wow.
And this is me walking around in some pain, but it takes a while for that to heal. So it's nothing. That was a real steel chair.
Wow. Yeah.
People
think everything is gimmicked, and it's really not.
They think it's a stage prop. It ain't a stage prop. It ain't a gimmick. This is me getting hit with a steel chair.
Wow. I mean, fun experiences. I don't know if the pain is worth it afterwards, but when you're in the moment, the adrenaline, you probably don't feel it till like the next day when you wake up, and it's like, but wow. Absolutely. And I've always heard the other thing you always hear about is people think it's fake and it doesn't hurt, but just hitting the rope, supposedly, I'm sure you know how brutal. It's brutal. So you get the calluses built up, they say. It becomes a little better. Wow.
Because when you run the ropes, especially with no shirt on, you're hitting rawhide or cable. It's you're hitting something that's sorry about that, extremely hard. So your back can't get used to that because it's not meant for things like that. It's your body's not meant to be tormented, if that makes sense.
Right.
So
right.
That's why when people say, well, yeah, we this wrestling stuff, can't believe you do that. Yeah, I do it and I love it, and it takes a special person to do what we do in the ring.
Yeah, that thanks, man. I mean, the referees, I feel like it's one of the most thankless jobs in all of wrestling because they just don't get the appreciation from the fans for some reason. But without them, where would you be? You wouldn't be anywhere.
I agree.
So, any other memories, any other goals left on your list of what you want to accomplish?
Okay, so I forgot to mention there was one other thing that just made my whole career. So Jim Cornette, and I know he's not with us anymore, but I grew up watching the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express. The Midnight Express was one of my favorite tag teams. To have Jim Cornette come into the ring when they won that championship, those championships, to me, it's like, oh wow, this is somebody this is awesome, right? Because this is Jim Cornette. Yeah, he's a very controversial person, but Jim was nothing but nice to me, and I will never be able to recreate that memory of those three in the ring with me. It's just awesome. So, and I did work some good matches. One of my fondest memories was how I debuted on Impact Wrestling. Brian got knocked out in the championship match with Bobby Lashley and Eddie Edwards. And they needed a second referee because he got knocked out. I come running down. I count the big 1-2, and Eddie jumps out while Bobby Lashley gets up and he punches me in my first match on Impact Wrestling.
Welcome to Impact.
Yes, and it was the scariest moment of my life to see that big fist coming towards my face. So that's how I was brought into Impact Wrestling for the flagship show. But I'm very content where I'm at. I don't foresee myself going forward with anybody else. I love my promoter, and I love Billy Corgan, and I don't foresee myself going anywhere else. My goal is to stick with him for as long as I possibly can, and to keep moving forward, to keep helping the referees that want to be helped, like a Jared Fritz or a Scott Wheeler, if they choose to move on. We all are in agreement that this is what we want to do. We're all in agreement that we want to stick around with the NWA, and I'd like to see the NWA go further than what they are right now. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we're on the right path. You know, with the Fight TV deal and all this stuff, we're on the right path, and I hope we can get a TV show eventually. And I hope to do this as a full-time job one day.
So you're still working as a cop,
yes.
And then, wow, man, that's thank you so much for your service there. So what would you tell if a young fan came up to you and said, man, what do I have to do to become a referee? What kind of advice would you give to a young person now looking to be a ref?
So my goal now, because there are schools out there, is to find a school, find one that's credible, a credible school. I don't mean just somebody that set up a ring in their backyard or somebody that set up a ring in a airplane hangar. Go find a school, learn how to work, learn the ins and outs of being a referee, and also pick the brains of the referees that are doing it, the good ones. Pick the brains of them, because we want referees to be good. We want people to do it the right way, because if they do it the right way, then it helps our business. It helps us to continue to keep doing what we're doing. So it's not always dog eat dog. We want to help you, and I'm available. I'll say it now on your show. I'm available. If you need to know something about referee, even for the current referees that are in it for like a year or 2 years, feel free to send me a message. I'm always willing to help new referees, because people helped me when I was coming up. Jack and Chad didn't have to do what they did for my brother and I, but they did. And that's why we are where we are today. Get a hold of me. I want to help you. I mean, if there's an opportunity down the road where I can help somebody to come into the NWA, sure, I will, or, hook them up with someone like a Brian Hebner, who is back with Impact Wrestling doing his thing. And shout out to Brian, man. That's my best buddy. Shout out to him. He's such a good dude. But I would tell the young referees to pick brains and to watch your TV shows, watch Impact, watch WWE, watch NWA, watch, MLW, watch different things, so you're not stuck with the same type of referee style. Because AEW referees ref completely different than WWE referees, and they ref completely different than the NWA referees. But wherever you're trying to end up and wherever you're trying to land, you might want to try to work with them and emulate what you see from those people.
Yeah. That's great advice. So what is your opinion on referees getting involved in storylines?
I've been involved in a couple myself, it all depends. Depends on what the show wants, what it calls for. Do I think, like a Johnny Bravo from Impact, he was a referee and now he's a manager. If it evolves into something else, then great. If it's involving you into a different character, I think it's fantastic. He did that referee thing, and then he became the manager for John Morrison, which is awesome. That's awesome that he worked with, these people, and I forget her name. John Morrison's wife.
Oh, yeah, she just signed with NXT.
Yeah, you got her name is like Frankie Monet in WWE or
Right, right,
something.
right, right.
So he got to work with her and John Morrison, uh, uh, and so like it evolved into something special. You know, when
Right.
Brad Maddox. Remember when Brad Maddox came in as a WWE referee, and it
Yes.
evolved into something. He became a worker. Um, to me, that's awesome for storyline purposes. Now, sometimes it may seem like a storyline, but it's not. Like I got hit with the chair. I disqualified Trevor Murdoch. That wasn't a storyline. I disqualified Trevor Murdoch. The chair was laying next to him. I disqualified him. I made a decision, a conscientious decision in that moment to disqualify Trevor Murdoch. And Nick Aldis won. And everybody
Wow.
was super angry with me because Trevor Murdoch lost. Now, that wasn't a storyline. That was me doing what I thought was the right decision at that moment. So, and now, you know, that they people think that I'm the bad referee because that happened. And then the second thing happened where JTG, the towel was thrown in by Fred, and now Chris Adonis is the national champion, and they think I'm working with Strictly Business, but I'm not. I am a straight lace ref that is calling things down the middle, and Strictly Business is not a part of that. You know, so that's kind of where we're at.
Wow.
So
And you got some exciting things coming up in NWA with the all women's pay per view, a special weekend there. You're looking forward to working that card? That's going to be, I can't wait to see the actual card.
so the Empower is what it's called there by
Empower,
Mickey
right.
James. I am absolutely elated that she is getting to do this and she's getting to do her vision. And I'm thankful that Billy let her do what she wants to do with that. Um, I'm not quite for sure with it being an all women's pay per view if there's going to be all women referees. I don't know, or if there's going to be male referees. I'm not for sure. I know I'm going to be there regardless to check it out because this is a big opportunity for a lot of female wrestlers, you know, and especially, you know, Mickey, you know, who, let's just be real, she's an icon of our business, you know, she's done a lot
Yes.
in this business and she deserves this platform that she's getting. And I hope people tune into it because it's going to be something special. I don't know who she's got lined up for it, but I'm sure it's going to be somebody, you know, some special people. There were some people just recently, you know, released from WWE. Maybe we'll get some of them. You know,
Yeah.
I'm good friends with Chelsea Green and Santana Garrett, and you know, let's be honest, the Iconics were let go. That they're really big. I don't know who's coming. I'm excited to see who's coming myself. To be honest with you. But the Empower thing's going to happen, and then the next night we're doing NWA 73. Our first big pay per view with Billy was NWA 70, and I was a part of that. That was an awesome time, and I'm happy to be a part of 73. And then, of course, the next 2 days are going to be in the power tapings. It's going to be 4 days worth of fun, man. And it's
Wow.
nice. And it's going to be out of St. Louis. It's going to be nice to go somewhere new, you know? St. Louis is right
Yeah.
down the road from me. So this is fantastic.
Wow, and it's awesome. I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy for Mickey because she deserves it after, her last WWE run wasn't all it should have been. You had a legend back there, and I feel like the word legend is thrown around in wrestling a little too much, but she is truly a legend. And I
Really
would have
is.
loved to seen her get a better send off from WWE. And I'm so glad to see her in this position now, knowing how much she loves women's wrestling and wrestling. I think it's going to be a fantastic show. I can't wait to see it.
It's gonna be
Have
awesome.
you followed any of the controversy going on with the AEW refing going? Fans talking about it and
Um, 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 I'll, I'll, I'll give you a quick my opinion. Okay.
okay,
Um, they obviously want a certain style of refereeing there. Okay. Um, I think they're a little animated, and I think they to me personally, they kind of take away from some of the things that are going on in the match. But that I think that's what they want, honestly, you know, because all of them do it. And I would, at first I was trying to get with AEW, and I think it's a great opportunity, to give somebody else a chance outside of WWE, and there's something else that's competing with WWE. So I think it's great. However, people are so used to referees, being the law. That's what we are. I was saying it earlier in the show, being the law. And I think a lot of things get let go, and they do a lot of catering, if that's what you want to call it. And I don't want to rub anybody the wrong way, because that's not what I'm about. I'm not trying to rub people the wrong way. However, there comes a time where some people, especially in this day and age where the internet is readily available, social media is available, and fans are allowed to say, because back in the day, fans didn't say anything because there was nothing for them to post on the platform. And I think that was how we kept the business, and that's what people say, the business, right? But we don't have that anymore because people do know our real names. People do know that we work outside of wrestling doing other things. People do know that I'm a police officer. They do know, like, I have things outside of this. Other wrestlers have things outside of this. And that's that. But I think that fans are finally speaking up on things they don't like. And
Yeah.
I take nothing away from the AEW referees. I really don't. I just feel like maybe it's their refereeing style is not everybody's cup of tea. Some
Right.
people might not like the fact that we call disqualifications when we call them, or we call in the corner because they haven't gotten out in the 5 counter. You've done something and you've gone over your 5 second time limit as a tag team. People might not like that we do that, but guess what? That's our rule. That's what we do. So maybe AEW tells them that's what they want, and they're doing what the company wants. So I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen some stuff from Jimmy Corderas, and he's speaking his mind, and there's a couple other referees that have spoke their minds about it, and I think maybe in the future they may take a look at it, but as of right now, I think they're content with what they're doing.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the referees are only doing what they're being told to do. So,
Absolutely. So
yeah,
who's to say that they're not being told to do what they're doing?
right, exactly. And when it's so many of them, I would think that they are. But
Yeah.
man, thank you so much. This was so much fun. A lot of great information here. Best of luck to you. Plug yourself. Tell everybody where they can find you, how they can be in contact with you.
So again, I want to thank you so much for having me on, the Turnbuckle sessions. This was awesome, and I'm thankful that I had the opportunity to share a little bit with you and share some stories. But you can find me at on all social media platforms at Ref Rob King. That's the at symbol, Ref REF Rob King ROBKING. And like I said, to all the fans that are out, I mean, all the referees that are coming up, please, if you got a question, get a hold of me. You can find me at Warrior Wrestling. They run in Chicago Heights, Illinois, at Marion Catholic High School. They're doing the summer series, is what they call it, the summer stadium series, where we do the shows on the football field. That was very instrumental during the COVID-19 pandemic. And AEW actually mirrored theirs after Warrior Wrestling, so they were allowed to have fans in their building because they took the layout that we have for Warrior Wrestling. So check out Warrior Wrestling. If you can't join the show for Warrior Wrestling, be sure to check out highspots.com. They run on the Title Match Network when they do their shows, and we got a show this Saturday, July 17th, and the main event there is going to be Kylie Ray versus Lady Frost, who both work in the NWA. And we got some other big names, Jonathan Gresham versus David Richards in a pure match. That's going to be awesome. And some more names, there to come. But also be able to check out NWA Power. If you do not have a subscription for Fight TV, it is only $5 a month. It is not going to break your bank. You can buy a cheeseburger for $5 a month. You can buy 4 episodes of Power for $5 a month. So be able to check out Fight TV and be on the lookout at the end of August. Like we talked about, Empower on the 28th, NWA 73 on the 29th, the 30th, and 31st. We'll be doing NWA Power tapings at the Chase in St. Louis. This is a big deal. So make sure if you are in the St. Louis area that you come check us out. And if not, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the Fight TV so you can go ahead and get all the information and all the news on NWA. But I appreciate you having me, and good luck to you in your show.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. It was really fun. You know, you're always welcome back. We could do this again.
Yeah, you just let me know.
Definitely,
And you
man.
know, maybe after we do a show, a big show or something, I can come back on, and I'll love to talk to you, man.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much. Best of luck to you, and definitely we'll be in touch.